I'm Cynthia James, and this network is about changing lives one woman at a time. Welcome to Women Awakening. I'm your host, Cynthia James. So excited to be with you. So honored that I get to introduce you to women that inspire me, that are change makers, that have decided to step into their full power on this planet, and then they get to share their wisdom with us. And so we do this every week. We're on Spotify and iTunes and YouTube and Spreaker. Just subscribe and come back every week and meet an incredible woman. So if you know me, you know women are a passion for me. I'm really clear that this is a time of women arising on this planet, and it's time for us to bring our gifts to this planet. And so my guest today is a woman who's also passionate about women. Her name is Steinnes. She's the visionary founder of the Women of Wisdom Conference, right? And she's held that container since 1993. After she was reading The Feminine Face of God, she had a vision to bring women spiritual leaders to Seattle. And this vision involved into creating a community for women through an annual conference. Then in 1998, she created the nonprofit organization, Women of Wisdom Foundation. In 2003, she let go of the role of executive director, and she formed this circle leadership model where she could co-create with other wise women. She is also the author of #1 Amazon best-selling award-winning book, Women of Wisdom, Empowering the Dreams and Spirit of Women. And that includes women authors and stories and art and poetry. She hosts the radio show Voices of Women, interviewing powerful women to share their gifts on Blog Talk Radio. Welcome, Chris. I am so happy that you are here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, I would like to start with you just giving us a little bit of your background. How did you grow up? A lot of people think women come on the planet, empowered, and they just leap into that space. But how did you grow up?
How did I leap into that space? Good question. I live in Seattle and I was born here, so I've been here all my life. One of the things, I'm Norwegian. My father came from Norway, and my mother's heritage is also Norway, so I have a Norwegian background. And one of the things I did, I think that led to where I am today that you don't know in the moment you're doing is I was in Girl Scouts. I was through high school. And, Girl Scout, we met in circle. We didn't really know what we were doing. We met in circles, and that was a place I felt safe and part of the community. And I also, in college, I studied home economics and art. I actually did clothing design, and I went into a clothing design field. And not knowing, what I often did was work with designers, did some designing myself, but I also worked with designers of putting all the pieces together that make a garment. So I would take samples to Hong Kong and for Britannia jeans and put them into work. So I knew what the final product is supposed to be. And I knew all the parts that went into making that product, from buttons to thread to the design elements, everything. And that's part of my training for becoming an event planner, an event coordinator, because you have to have the vision and you have to know what creates all the details that go into that. And you're well aware of that too. So that was part of my training. Little did I know when I had the vision, like you reading The Feminine Face of God, that I was going to be lead an organization and lead events. And I was the program director at Unity Church in Seattle for a while. And that's where we did Women of Wisdom the first 12 years. And so everything just one thing led to another. And, on hindsight, you can go, oh, that's where I developed those skills.
Well, I was a brownie and a Girl Scout, and I sold cookies, and it's so interesting that you said this thing about the circles. Yeah, because we were meeting in circles, clueless that would become part of my life. So, and I love the fact that you can draw the bridge between what you learned in the garment industry and how it translates into events. So I want to know, when you have a vision, a lot of times the vision is way bigger than where you are in the moment. And so your initial vision was what?
One conference. After reading the book, I was on the board at Unity Church, and I was driving home on one of our old highway in Seattle late at night. And it was a clear moment that came to me that said, that book has stories from women from different spiritual backgrounds. It's a great book. And I realized, because Seattle Unity Church had all these programs. They had a Wednesday night program where speakers came, and it just came to me, oh, we need to bring women from this book to Seattle. And then it came in like we could do a monthly, like 1 month. We could have a weekly would be women. But then it was clear, the message just came in like, no, you need to do a 1 week conference to build community. And so, and it was so, because had taken on a mission a few years before that of bringing people together was my mission. And yet I didn't know what that meant either. I just went, oh, okay, fine. And, and so when this vision came in, it so resonated with that mission that I went to the ministers the next day and they said, go for it. I got together 9 women, and 9 months we took to plan the first conference. And we put a lot of things into work that's still into play today, of who we were, what we wanted to create. And we were creating one workshop, one conference, And so the first night I stood up and said, welcome to the first annual. Again, a voice from above saying, I had no clue that was going to come out of my mouth. And here we are, we're in our 30th year. And that also is, Women of Wisdom just has a life of her own, no matter what we humans do. She just keeps pushing us forward.
Well, I love that, and plus, I guess I just want to say 2 things. One is that a lot of times we know something's calling us and we don't know how, but the level of trust must be activated so that you can just start to follow the vision and the voice. But the other part is, it's a big task to take on a week event, and so how did you get funding? How did it all work for you to do everything that you wanted to do for a 5-day? Was it 5 days?
The first one was like a Sunday through Saturday. And then we realized we needed to incorporate the weekends. Then it became like 9 days. And for a good maybe 14 years, now it's just not possible that, looking back, we had a big team of volunteers that created it. We had a circle of women, a committee, and lots of volunteers. The church probably, funded our advanced costs. It paid for itself. It's always paid for itself. But we're also became our own nonprofit. We separated from Unity Church in 1998, 5 years later. So we're our own organization. So that gives other challenges of the year-long expenses of running an organization. And so, but the conference often is especially now with COVID, we're not doing other things. So, in person. So the conference is our main thrust of that brings us the funds and our monthly expenses aren't very high, but they're there. And so usually no matter how little we have or how much we have, somehow we make it through the years. Like I say, Women of Wisdom just keeps going.
Well, it's a divine idea. That's for sure. And I guess, okay, so you had this business ability, but had you ever run a nonprofit before? Did you know what that meant?
No, I'd been on the board at Seattle Unity Church and involved there, but I don't know. I think I'm just a good organizer, and I figured out how to become a nonprofit. I rather than paying, people who do that for big bucks, I filled out the forms, and then I went to a person who specialized. She used to work for the IRS, and for a much lower fee, she could just review my application, make the needed changes. And since we were under the umbrella of a nonprofit, Seattle Unity Church, we got our nonprofit status very easily. And then I really took a lot of classes. I took a lot of things that were on leadership or nonprofit running or development directing, all sorts of things in the first 10 years. And it's just trial by error, you just keep at it.
Yeah, but I love what you're saying because you didn't have, a lot of money to spend, but you did the research, you asked for help, and then you continued to learn what it would take to run it. And I think that that's a great place for people to start. I work a lot with women entrepreneurs, and it's like, start with what you have, ask for help, and then invest in yourself, take the classes that are necessary for you to learn what you need and how you want to do this. And so I want to talk about your book.
Sure.
So it's called Women of Wisdom, Empowering the Dreams and Spirit of Women. Had you written a book before?
No, but I was more of the collaborator. Like I wrote parts and then other parts were written. We took 10 of our best talk, well, not best, but some favorite talks. We transcribed them to a book chapter length. And then I collected art and poetry. A lot of art. We had beautiful musicians that would come sing for us, like Holly Near and Libby Roderick, and many, many people. And their songs are poems. And so I just collected, contacted everybody, and we put this together. So it's a book of the many voices and visuals of what a woman of wisdom is. Stories. There were women in there who were part of the creative team and their stories, or participants, and how it changed their lives. And then the beautiful words of wisdom from some of our presenters, like Rianne Eisler, who's going to be with you here this year, and Jean Shinoda Boland and Jean Houston and Marion Woodman. So these amazing women, their words are in the book. And I just sort of wove my stories of, in between. And so it's more of a collaboration. And
yeah, well, and so, a lot of people want to write books, and a lot of people, create them. But, becoming a number one bestseller, there's strategy and there's work to it. And so I want to know, how did that happen for you? Did you get support? Did you seek support? What happened?
Yes, well, that was in the day where they did all these Amazon campaigns, like a 1-day sale. And I had a date in June, and I had taken a class on how to do it. And you give people, they get to be in the launch, and they give gifts. So, I mean, it was a lot of work, but so I just got all my contacts, Women of Wisdom contacts, and various people that I, found through Facebook or wherever. And they would send in their information about themselves and their photo, and they would be given a gift. And so when people bought the book on that day, they would get potentially all these gifts. And so that's what drove it. And actually, it became number one on top of, I forget what author it was, a well-known author. And I was number one in like 6-7 categories, but it was really the push, the help of people who are big name people like Starhawk, and I forget who else, Susan Weed, various Women of Wisdom people who are authors and well-known authors. They helped push that because they were part of the team. And so everybody put emails out, and it just grew. Now it was very popular back then. I think that was 2009. And then it got kind of overdone, like so many people were doing it, that now I'm not sure if those kind of campaigns work as well.
They do, but you have to do a lot more pre-work and pre-sale things, and
Yeah.
But one of the things I'm loving about this conversation with you is that you're an explorer and an adventurer, and it's like you step out, and then it's like, okay, how do I do this? And then you bring women together to support the vision. And I just think that that's extraordinary. What did you do in your life for work besides this?
This was it when this was happening. I mean, at first, when the first 5 years, I was also doing the programs, the speaker program at Seattle Unity Church. And before that, I was doing clothing design, and for a few years. And before that, I was traveling around the world for 3 years. I took a big break from clothing design and went traveling.
Intense.
Yeah.
And so tell me about your family life. Are you married? Do you have children? What is that like?
I'm married. We've been married since 1986. So how many years is that? I lost count. 34 years, something like that. Anyway, and yes, and we have 2 cats. We don't have any kids. And we have a lovely home in the north part of Seattle. And I'm involved with, I'm in a spiritual group myself, a spiritual training I've been in since, before Women of Wisdom, which led me to even get these visions. And that group is Training Empower, but I'm also part of Amazing Grace Spiritual Center, a center for spiritual living church here in Seattle. And I'm involved in a group. We have a global service team, and we've been working on schools in Cambodia and Kenya. And they're not our schools. They're schools that people in those villages wanted a school. And we help them financially. We take trips there and we support them. But the schools belong to the villages there. And that's exciting work because I love travel, and that's been really fulfilling work too.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, well, I've been married for 26 years and not married with my husband for 26 years and married for 22. But I guess I really wanted to ask you, a lot of women feel like it's difficult to find a mate that gets, what it means to be with a woman of power, a woman of wisdom, that some don't even believe that those men exist. And so can you talk a little bit about your experience and what you feel about that?
Well, I'd say my husband is probably number one woman of wisdom supporter. He does pretty much my backup. He's a computer geek, so he does all the computer stuff. When we were at Unity Church, there was a big church, and he would always sit in the balcony for all the talks. The evenings we had open to men at the time. And so he's probably been our biggest contributor and supporter. He's not a person that has hampered anything that I want to do.
Right. Yeah, but I guess I'm thinking that he was a manifestation of your consciousness on some level. You know what I mean? Because of your passion and your being, because my husband is a big supporter of my work too, and I really feel like the moment I became what I wanted to be in the world, then he showed up. And so what do you want women to know about conscious partnerships?
That's a good question. Well, I mean, I think it first starts with yourself, of knowing what your passions are and what you want in your life. And then where does the partner, where do you meet? And one of the things about our relationship is we're very different. We have different interests. Like I said, he's into the computers, and our commonality is movies and travel. And so we have our common things, and then we have also lead very different independent lives. And I think that's important too, that you have something that's your own.
You just described my marriage. Yeah, we're both independent souls. We both love to travel. We do movies too. That's our date time. But the fact that we both have different interests and that we get to come together is a wonderful thing. You're a talk show host. You're on Blog Talk Radio, and a lot of people are doing podcasts, and they're doing, they're trying to get on radio and stuff. And it takes some focus and support to do this, to do a show every week or whatever. So what called you to do this, and what support did you get to create it?
Well, it's one of those things. I think I took a summer off. Sometimes I take summer as my kind of downtime from work with Women of Wisdom. And I remember I was painting my living room, and I was just painting, and I got a call from Voice America or some, radio network. And I remembered I'd gotten a call before, and I went, oh, pay attention to this, because my painting was kind of a meditative practice, like something I knew something would come forward. And then I remember that Dr. Pat Bacilli, she has I heard her speak that she was going to be doing a radio thing. And I contacted her and I said, oh, wait, talk to me. And she was starting a network of radio shows. And so I actually was with her for 7 years. And the nice thing about that was, it costs money because you're buying into a system, even if you do there's lots of networks out there that do that. I just knew she had the marketing. To find your own audience and do it on your own starting off is difficult. And so I went with her to that. So anybody that watched all the other shows, you're in her system, you're in her website. And it was always Friday at 1:00. And so I did that for 7 years, and I took a break. And now I do interviews kind of when I want to. I do interview all the Women of Wisdom presenters. And so I do more like from now until March. And so I can choose now, and I'm kind of in a pause, deciding if I'm going to go forward more in that. I get requests from authors who are those PR people for authors, and I get, they want to send me their book, so I'm kind of in a pause right now. And I know being on Blog Talk, that is a little more like, how do I market that? Mm-hmm. Basically what I have is, Facebook and putting it out there, Women of Wisdom. But that's a lot of work to market your own show if you're totally on your own.
Yeah. And, ladies who are listening, who are wanting to be more visible and wanting to be more out in the world, everything that she's talking about, everything that we're discussing here, takes a commitment, it takes action, and it takes work. That's how she started the organization. That was the creation of the book. That was the Amazon bestseller, that, Blog Talk, so whatever it is that wants to be birthed through you, you get to go, okay, I know I want to do this, but there's going to be work involved, and I have to be really dedicated to that. So I want to know, how do women find you? How do they find the conference? I'm so excited to be speaking at it this year. I can't even tell you. How do people find you?
Yeah, so they go to womenofwisdom.org is our website, and we are launching, we're launching beginning of December, and we're going to have early bird prices through January 15th, and there's member prices, and it's online for the second year. We've been in person for 28 years. We were in person, and how we're different is we're a very experiential conference. So we have 3-hour workshops. People go, our online ones will be 2.5, but people go in depth. It's very experiential. It's very intimate, even online, because of the breakout rooms. People get to share their stories. And that's the most powerful thing that women can do, of sharing their stories and be witnessed and listen to other women's stories, because that's very healing when you hear other stories that, oh, that's my story too. And it allows you to voice, because of shame and guilt and all those emotions that we go through, that we are afraid to share a story. When we hear somebody else share something that you resonate with, like, oh, I've experienced that, gives you permission also to share. And so there's been a lot of healing. And so that way, we're a very unique conference. We don't sit in a room of 500 people and listen to a speaker. It's you are part of it. Everyone is part of it.
Love that. And so, ladies, the conference is March 24th through the 27th. And please go to womenofwisdom.org and, explore what's happening there and come have fun with us. So I ask the same last question of every guest. This show is called Women Awakening. What do you think is the one thing women need to know about the importance of their awakening?
Oh, good question. Well, the first thing comes to mind is like knowing their passions. What are they passionate about? And I tell people to go back to when they were a little child. What were they excited and passionate about then? And that'll be a clue that what will move them forward of what they want to do now. If you're in a crossroads or in a transition time, to just sit inside yourself, meditate, and go back, get the little inner child feelings of what excites you. And then figure out how to do it. Ask people.
Yes, exactly. Well, Chris, thank you so much for being here. I'm so honored to know you. I just am so inspired by who you are and what you've created, and the depth and the breadth of all of the people that you've supported over the years and will continue to support. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. It's great to be here.
So, ladies, like I said, we do this every week. And so I'm going to really invite you to come back and really peruse the library. There are some amazing women doing amazing things. And this is the important thing. They are just examples of what's possible. You are extraordinary. You are a place of dynamic expression. You are unique. Therefore, there's a whole lot available for you to create. So come back and let us support you so that you can create the life of your dreams. So grateful. I'll see you soon.